Anybody have a sign-up sheet, Leslie? Anyone in the audience wish to be heard at public comment section? You'll have 5 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Come forward, please.
Yes, please. Where would you like for me to stand?
Right there. Sit. It's fine. Use the microphone. It's a public microphone.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
My name's Randy
But you can have a seat.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
make yourself at home. State your name and your address for us, please.
My name is Randy Campbell. My address is 3570 New London Road, Forest, Virginia, which is located in Bedford County, just west of Lynchburg.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, the CEO of Blue Line Solutions, who I'm employed with, he is currently finishing up a printing operation to pass out some correspondence to you all so that it will accompany what he would like to share with you verbally. So I will stand in his stead, or you can stop the time. I just simply wanted to stand and let you know that he is on his way from wherever your printing operation is here in the building.
Okay. Is he going to be the one to speak next after he hands it out?
He is. I
Okay.
simply wanted you to know that we're kind of in a lull in the
Okay.
moment.
We'll work it in, and we'll give you 5 minutes when it comes up.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, Public Safety Committee, members Hall, Roundtree, and Brooks. Councilman Hall.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. On operational updates from the police department, May activity report, Chief Howard, Deputy Chief Fire.
Good afternoon, Major.
Afternoon, sir. You guys have our May manager's report. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Wait one.
Took the words out of my mouth, Mr. Mayor.
I have a question.
Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Valerie, go ahead.
I noticed in your activity report that there was a gang meeting, and I don't know if that was with the the 3 police departments here in our area. If you could tell me who it was with, and is that an ongoing meeting?
Yes, ma'am. It's a monthly meeting. Franklin just hosts it, but all 3 county police departments and the sheriff's office were in attendance. And then there's some federal agencies that attend. There's just several agencies there.
Is that in reference to active gangs here in our area? Or is it training, or what type of meeting is it?
So it's basically where we all get together and say, hey, this is what we're facing in our area. What are you facing in your area? Maybe you have parts of a case for us. Maybe we have some for you. Maybe Franklin has a gang that's spreading out to Isle of Wight. It's informational passing, intel passing, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Is this type of meeting is what led to the recent arrest?
I'm sorry. No, this meeting did not. That was a investigation that Isle of Wight was working.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions? Yes.
So, Beth used to get with you guys about the community fair. I think the National Night Out is first weekend of October. How's planning for that going? And do you have a new liaison amongst us? Maybe I don't know.
I think Mr. Hall attends those meetings.
Okay.
But it's going excellent. In fact, I was stopped today and told that we have McGruff that's going to be there. So he's going to be coming prior to National Night Out. We're going to do an advertisement with him for National Night Out. So it's going really well.
Great. I also saw in your activity report boat training. So do we have a staffed vessel?
Yes, ma'am. We are, as you know, our team's been down because of staffing. We have recently spun it back up, and right now is just training to get our new members up on boat operations. So and our whole team was, except maybe 2 or 3 people, is all new members. So we're just training them right now. So while we do have a team, we're not ready to deploy just quite yet. Maybe within another month or so, we'll be fine.
So you don't regularly patrol?
No, we were out there for the last holiday, and we'll continue to do the holidays. We'll be out there for July 4th weekend and all that. But for the summer patrols, it'll probably be maybe 30 days before we're out there regularly.
Okay. Did you have any questions about? Oh. And then, I know I texted Mr. Hall about this, but on my neighborhood website, there was a lot of discussion about a hit and run on Friday. And they said the police were made aware, I don't know, it's a kid on a bike. You don't know what that is?
I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm on vacation last week, this week, so I
Oh.
don't know anything about it. But I can find out if
So
you'd
you
like.
just got to come to this meeting?
Just this.
Okay, great.
I saw that on Facebook.
Yeah, there's just lots of comments, like citizens reviewing tape and stuff.
I can look into it and let you know.
Okay, it was Friday, right, Val? Did it say
I believe
Fri-
it was Friday.
Okay.
And it was a young man who was on a bicycle, who was hit by some kind of truck. Sorry, I don't know the details, but that's all I have. Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, Renee, I'll follow up with you on the National Night Out. We're having a meeting Tuesday at 3 o'clock at the police department with all the members that's working on the National Night Out. So there'll be more information coming back from that meeting.
Thank you.
Anything else? Any more questions for the deputy chief? Thank you, sir. Next, we'll move to operational updates from the Smithfield Volunteer Fire Department.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen from council. Our operational update for April is we had 51 calls that month. In May, we had 56. Even with the event of the tornado we had come through town, we was able to keep up with our calls and gearing up for the night storm too. We're also working on the training facility with Tammy Clary, getting our stuff set up so we can proceed forward on our training grounds. Any questions I can answer for y'all?
Any questions?
No, just a comment. Had the opportunity to go visit with the fire department on drill night. What night was that, Jeff?
That was 1st of June.
First of
June
June.
5th,
I was
think it
able to talk with them a little bit, and also had a firsthand demonstration of the new ladder truck. And I was very, very impressed with the competence of those who were operating there. And every time I go there, I'm very much convinced that we probably have, not probably, we have the best volunteer fire department that I've ever seen, without a doubt. I recall coming to Smithfield back in '82 and could not believe how fast the doors went up on the fire department when it was downtown. So things have not changed. So thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
And along those lines, I know that there was a major structure fire in Carrollton 3 days ago?
Friday
Friday.
morning.
And huge response from all involved. I think they had it under control with less than an hour.
Yeah.
And
Saved
we
the
had-
house.
Huh?
They saved the house.
Saved the house. But they had units coming from Suffolk, 30, all around. And it was a great response from everybody, and that just shows you how teamwork works together for the bottom line is to save the community. Good
That's
job,
right.
Chief. Anything else, sir?
No,
Any
sir.
other questions?
Y'all have any questions?
Good enough. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on to item number 4, operational update for Isle of Wight Rescue Squad. Chief Brian Carroll.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, sir.
I'll be almost as brief as Jeff was. I want to start by telling you, we finally put our medic in service that was hit by a drunk driver in total last year. It took us about 12 months to get that back. So we put that in service this week, but I want to preface that with saying we had the honor of taking that to the Virginia Fallen Firefighter EMS Memorial in Richmond on June the 3rd, because we dedicated that medic to Bobby Nims, who was a former career provider and a volunteer that died in the line of duty from a COVID call. After his retirement, he had moved on to volunteer at another agency in Galax, Virginia, or Freeze, the big town of Freeze, Virginia. But that was quite a ceremony. If you get a chance, anybody gets a chance to watch it, it's live on vafire.org. It's about a 2-hour event, but it'll send goosebumps down you, I promise you. So take a chance to watch it. That unit is in service and dedicated to his honor. Special events in the town over the last couple months have been fairly easy. We haven't had any major events or major calls at the events, so nothing out of the ordinary. Call volume is steady to up. Call volume runs anywhere from 9 to 20 calls a day out of our station. It's truly hard to believe some days. We can't wait for this hospital groundbreaking next month, and that more so to get that thing open in 2 years' time. Just met with the medic vendor because we're talking about ordering an ambulance next year, and they tell us almost 2 years on delivery of an ambulance. That's almost, and I've had chassis reserved for a year. So chassis aren't the issue, it's that they're so backed up from not being able to get chassis for the last 2 years that they're saying 18 to 24 month build time on a medic. So that was a little, I was very surprised at that. I kind of thought we were caught up, and we are caught up. There's chassis now, there's just 1,500 build slots behind when they build 400 a year. So that's kind of where we are. We just finished an EMT class at the squad. About half that class is tested and passed, and we're waiting on the rest of them to test, so we're proud of them. Starting a new one in July. That'll run July to January if anybody wants to take it. That's advertised on our website, and of course we're teaching CPR every month and EVOC every month up there for people that want to drive. So, and we're seeing finally in the last 6 months, pleasantly seeing more recruitment than we've seen in 3 years post-COVID. We're getting some of that back around. A lot of that comes from teaching EMT again and having classes, but we've seen more applications from volunteers in the last 6 months than we've seen in 3 years. So that's a pleasant surprise. And that is about all I have operationally.
Good enough. Any comments or questions?
Just one.
Yes, sir.
I also had the opportunity to visit the squad. It's probably been about a month and a half ago. I was on the squad from 86 to 88, and I remember the training. I was EMT class, and then after you left the EMT class that night, you were on call, and I had a motor vehicle accident that I had to work the next morning. Such is not the case anymore. It's just really, really refreshing to hear that the recruitment is up. And I think that's a credit and tribute to the wonderful job that y'all do down there. Your reputation is on par with our fire department. Our emergency services in this area are very, very good. So I appreciated the hospitality to see what was going on down there. And believe me, we're in good hands with that squad. Thank you very much.
All right, along those lines, Chief, yesterday at our church, we had a guest speaker, Tom Kramer, from the Wasson Center at CNU University. And along with him was Cammie Castleberry, who is the assistant director. And I spoke with her about recruiting from CNU, and I'm going to get the people on our end in recruitment together with Cammie and get things going in that direction too, so we can get those students over here staffed in the rescue club.
So that, Wayne, that's always been a big recruitment tool for us. We just kind of fell out of that during COVID too, because we weren't able to do it, and we're back into that now. We usually, when that program was up and running alive and well, we probably had as many as 10 or 15 CNU students all the time. And now we're just seeing that build back. We probably have 7 or 8 now.
Go Captains.
Is that because they're such a big med school feeder?
Yeah, it's all pre-med.
Yeah,
Great.
but that should be up and coming real soon, Chief, so.
And we know the attrition rate on that's 4 or 5 years, and we understand that. We want them to go, our goal is to make them better folks and go on to whatever their career goal is. But if we can keep them for, and get them trained, we don't quite put them on the street the night they come out of EMT class anymore.
No.
But, it's 6 months down the road, we'd like to have them trained and get 3 years out of them. And that's kind of been our recruitment model for the last several years.
Well, for those that don't know, Chief and I work together at the rescue squad. I'm president of our White Rescue Squad. So, and Pete Carlson, who is a very dedicated at CNU, he is working with us also in getting CNU students. So we've got some good things coming down the road. So I just want to let you know that, Chief.
Can I ask one question? Sure. Off the subject. Do we have an update, maybe this might be touchy, on the bridge project and traffic flow on that? Do we know?
I saw Wayne back there with Jack. I don't know if we've got anything new.
Last we've heard is January.
Next January.
Yes.
And it's going to be open.
Like 24.
January 24th?
24.
That's moved 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Is traffic going to flow one way, no way?
One way.
Alternating lanes. Alternating traffic lanes.
I have to say, I have concerns, serious concerns about accessibility to residents in that traffic pattern. I think we experienced that last week with a moving truck on South Church Street. From one moving truck, we couldn't go anywhere. And I don't know what the answer is, but I can tell you from a public safety standpoint, and I think Jeff would concur, one-way traffic is not a solution for us.
I think the police department would concur with that also.
Can I make a comment or ask a question?
Absolutely.
Maybe, y'all are equipped with Opticom, correct, on all the units?
Yep.
Opticom's a system that allows the unit to change the traffic light as it approaches to make sure that it gives that. I don't know, Wayne or Jack, if the setup, that once they put the setup onto the Church Street Bridge, if they can equip it with an Opticom receiver so that when an emergency vehicle does approach, that it will change the light. And although it will be a short delay to clear, that may give, from a response time, a little bit of assistance as well, you think?
I believe that's what they're going to have. They're not gonna have flaggers out there for 2 years. I believe they're gonna have a system similar to that. Is that correct? Yeah. So.
Okay. Give you a little bit of time. Look, when I was chief, I know how long it takes to hit gridlock. You have one issue on the bypass or one issue on South Church Street, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it's about 10 minutes.
Right.
And things are slammed shut. So the bottom line is, just well get on it and get with it. We're going to have a trying time. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be just, the patience level is going to have to increase significantly by all involved when that project comes, because it's just not going to be fun.
Right.
So I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other comments or questions toward the chief? Thank you, chief, appreciate it.
Thank you all.
That is all we have for public safety, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I think the gentleman that's here for public comments, could you come forward, sir? Did you have a handout, or?
Yes. Yes, sir.
You give it to the, just give it to the town manager and he'll hand them out. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to come speak to you. My name is Mark Hutchinson. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Blue Line Solutions.
And your address, sir?
I'm in Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's,
Address, please?
yes, sir.
Yeah.
4409 Oakwood Drive, Chattanooga, Tennessee, 37416.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. And let me just a little bit about our company real quick. I'm a former law enforcement officer. Was a chief deputy of a sheriff's office in East Tennessee that borders Sullivan County and Washington County, Virginia. From there, went to the Governor's Highway Safety Office in Tennessee as a law enforcement liaison. Served there until I went to the Governor's office in Georgia as a law enforcement coordinator, and then came back to Tennessee's Governor's Highway Safety Office as a law enforcement administrator. So my entire career in public service was dedicated to reducing crashes, injuries, and fatalities on our roadways. And since starting this company in 2010, that has continued to be our sole mission. And among our group of employees, we have about, I'll say 20 plus, I'm not exactly sure how many, but between 20 and 30 law enforcement officers that work for us. One being Sergeant Randy Campbell from the Virginia State Police, retired, and as well as Greg Hawkson, 25-year law enforcement officer from Washington County and Bristol PD here in Virginia. And the reason I'm here is last council meeting, my company's name came up in discussion about a school zone automated speed enforcement program. And there were some comments made that I just wanted to respond to. And those being made by the deputy chief about our service model and how we charge for a service model. In his statements, he said basically that our model violated Virginia State Code. And I want to sit before you and basically say from our perspective, it's not. And we've had multiple attorneys look at it. It does comply with Virginia State Code. Multiple attorneys in Virginia at multiple jurisdictions have looked at it and said it does comply with Virginia State Code. And if two things are opposite, can they be the same? Well, the answer is obviously no, right? So here's just the bulk of what I want to say. There's one model, which is a revenue share model, which is not allowed in Virginia. And it is the model that every company uses in most other states. And that is, if the fine is $100, let's say the town gets $75 and the company gets $25 of every paid fine. That's a revenue share. The other model is a service fee. And let's say, for instance, we as a company, when the camera captures a violation, the image comes into our processing center, and we have to run that through inlets, which is the section of NCIC that allows us to get the tag information. It's the same place that the Virginia State Patrol and every other law enforcement agency gets their information. We are an inlet's partner. But we get charged every time that we run that tag, right? And then from that point on, the processor processing it, to the officer approving it, to the stamps, the mail, everything associated with sending out information out is what the service fee is for. And in Virginia, we charge a $25 service fee. Now, here's where the misunderstanding is. Under the revenue share, if the Smithfield Police Department issues one violation, and it goes to Randy Campbell, for instance, he's the speeder, and he doesn't pay it, under the revenue share, Blue Line has paid all this money to send this thing out, and we just get stuck with the bill because it didn't get paid, right? Because he didn't pay his fine. But under the service model, if all that stuff is done, he gets his ticket in the mail, he doesn't pay it, per Virginia code, we have to charge the town a service fee of $25. It falls on the town. The two things are exactly opposite. One falls on the company, one falls on the town. And if one is legal, the other must be illegal, right? They both can't be legal or illegal. And that's what we're talking about here. So our service model, we fall under the service model here, which is legal. And Randy just sent a few items around, one of which is the Sulfit contract with Ultimate. And if you look at page 16, at the bottom of that contract, they charge a processing fee of $10. And after so many, I can't remember, let's see, it's after 250 violations, that goes up to $12. And then, of course, they charge $3,500 a month. I'm not here to argue anything other than if what we're doing is illegal, it's one and the same, what they're doing is illegal. And I'm here to say that both of us are doing things legally. And that's basically all I wanted to say to you. You know, when things are on the internet, they're there forever. And the last meeting was on the internet. And I am going to run into other communities that see the last council meeting on the internet, and I'm going to be questioned about it. This is my opportunity to put it back on the internet, that everything that we are doing is legal.
Okay.
And I appreciate the opportunity to do so.
Okay. Refresh my memory. We've been going back and forth and back. Are y'all working with Isle of Wight County, or is that the other?
We are.
company? We, just to clarify matters, and I don't want to get into the legalities of it, I don't think, as you well know, the school system in Isle of Wight County is a county school system. Some states, such as North Carolina, have state school systems and things like that. We are discussing, or in discussion with, or hopefully will be in more so discussion with the county pursuant to this program. As you well know, as I said, the county manages the school system and things like that. So we have received a letter from the chairman of the Board of Supervisors asking us to enter into dialogue with them, as we have but one school that's located within the town limits. We're waiting for some dialogue back and forth, but and until we do that, and then we consult with our legal counsel and things like that, how that's going to shake out. But that's where we are, just to give you a heads up on that now. We'll be working very diligently to have some dialogue, get it shaked out. But we appreciate you coming. We appreciate your comments. I can assure you it will be on the internet, just like the last one was.
Okay.
And we'll go from there. But I just want to give you a heads up on that. And Mr. Chairman, that's all I have. I just want to clarify that for the gentleman.
That's fine, thank you, man.
Thank you very much. And I will, just one last thing, whether it's our program or Ultimates or whoever's, just please know that these programs do slow people down. They do save lives. And that's what I've given my life's mission to. And our motto is striving for zero. Zero crashes, zero injuries, and zero fatalities. If we achieve that, we've done our job.
We'd like to see that too. Thank you.
sir.
Okay.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Can I speak publicly as well?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Sure.
Hello,
Hello.
my name is Ashley Karzak. You guys, I'm with Ultimate. My address is 1621 Karma Court, Virginia Beach, Virginia. I would like to just respond to Mr. Hutchinson's statements about our pricing model. $3,500 includes 250 citations. It is not $10 in addition to that, making it an average of $14 per citation. We did it that way. We call it the hybrid model because when there's more back office operations that goes into pricing these, right? There's the mailings. These are all the things that Mr. Hutchinson mentioned, but he misspoke on our pricing and the understanding of our contract. Secondly, I'd also like to mention that the Isle of Wight County and maybe even the city of Smithfield, town of Smithfield, had mentioned that they want to do a school bus stop arm as well. So there was a mention at the Isle of Wight Board of Supervisors meetings, having one company under one umbrella do everything. Ultimate can do that. Currently, we have a contract with Suffolk. It is the largest automated traffic enforcement contract in place in the state of Virginia. In addition to that, we have recently signed on, since we last talked to you, Harrisonburg, Virginia, and Portsmouth, Virginia. We have warehouse space, office space, operations in Suffolk. We're local to the community. We know the community, we understand the community, and that's what I have to say.
Okay. Well, thank you, ma'am. I'm not going to speak for the rest of the council, but, you know, the school system, for the most part, is controlled by the county.
Yep.
And I think we'll be waiting to see what Isle of Wight Public Schools do before we go down another road or whatever. Everybody's, it's fair competition, but from my, at least from my individual perspective, I think this is more of a county issue because,
Absolutely.
so,
Yeah, I understand.
but we appreciate you coming and
Yeah,
talking to
I
us about
appreciate
it.
you giving me the opportunity to speak.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Any other comment, questions? Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Yep, have a great day. All right, that ends the public safety. The next is water sewer. Members of Councilman Smith, who is not here tonight, Councilman Pack and Councilman Hall. So Councilman Pack, I think if you'll take
I'll be happy to open water and sewer. And we'll start with public comments. Any comments for water and sewer? Jack, any updates from water and sewer?
No, sir.
With that being said, I will close water and sewer. Thank you for the opportunity to run that meeting.
Okay. Next is the Finance Committee members, Mr. Pack, Vice Mayor Butler, and Councilman Smith. Mr. Pack.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This time I'd like to open the Finance Committee. Any public comments for Finance Committee? We do have some budget discussion planned in here. Any comments? Hearing none, I will open up with April and May financial statements, but before I do so, I'd like to welcome Ms. Laura Ross, our newly hired town treasurer. We joined us last Tuesday. Laura, I hope you're finding your way around town and seeing what we do, and glad to have you.
Thank you so much. Good to be here.
With that, we'll do April and May financial statements. Jay, we have you listed as interim treasurer running these, so we're going to start with that.
Okay, well, we'll start with the cash balances. On the third column from the left, we'll just look at the actual balances, because the adjusted balances will, because of due tos and due froms, there's probably some negatives over there on that side, but some totals are the same. But in any case, we have basically 2.6 million in the subtotal of all the water funds, 5 million in the subtotal of all the sewer funds, 45,000 and some change in the highway fund, and 16.8 million in the general fund accounts, for a total of 24.5 million roughly. So if anybody has any questions on the cash balances, that's where we're at on those, is a big overview of where we're at. It hasn't changed a lot from the previous month. We go up and down a little bit. It was 444,000. There was a lot of, I think there was a lot of water expenses this particular last time. So we paid a lot of big bills with the, they were all approved by the council. There's some large ones. So anyway, any questions?
Jay, do we always run 2 months behind? Or do you think it'll catch up? Like, in June, should we review May cash balances, or is it always 2 months in arrears?
Well, this is May
This is
31st.
as of May.
Oh, it's April and May?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yep.
The cash balances is May, because that was the end of the last previous month. And then what I did is we created, for the revenue and expense statements, we have both the April and the May statements. We sort of caught up with that. I mean, we have several implementations going on. Obviously, got year end coming up. So our goal with these implementations is, as we collaborate together between our treasurer, Laura, and I, and then the town manager and the other people on the team, you know, with the implementations and the different things that we're doing, hopefully we will divide and conquer and move things forward a lot quicker than they have been. So that's the plan. I'm really, because we have April and May here and they're cumulative, you know, year to date, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to go through the April by itself, so we'll just skip to May. As far as your revenues and so on and so forth, and you have the overviews. So far, we've had 10.4 million roughly in all of our revenues, and just over 10 million in expenses. So we are a little bit plus actual, you know, toward reserves so far. But you know, all that is subject to change as we get more revenues from July. That will go back into June. When we hit our June financial statements, they're going to be more of a you know, because of year end, there's going to be a lot of adjustments going back. But we'll just address that next month when we have our meeting. But hopefully between now and then, we will, you know, we'll have a plan and we will be moving forward and moving it quicker down the road than what's normally been.
So the May financials, can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
The May financial statement percentages, if you were looking at the variance, with just 1 month to go in the period, would be 80-something percent, 90%,
11
whatever,
divided
12 divided by
12,
100 is.
Yeah, let me just tell you in just a second. Let me see. Basically 91.7%. That would be your average.
So that's what you would expect for.
So we obviously we're low on the, you know, on both the revenue projection and the expenses. You know, in other words, the expenses have stayed in line. So you know, it's been monitored all along. So that part is good. But you know, all the budget is the best guess, right?
Yeah. Always a good thing when your expense, if it's going to be off, it's off by less than what your revenue is, right? That's always what I like to see.
Correct.
Just a question about miscellaneous revenues at 246%.
Yeah, miscellaneous, just flip to, we had, one of those was, actually, we were just looking at those. One of those was a sale of land for $232,500, so that was a big chunk of that. And then there was some insurance recoveries in there, which insurance are things that you spent that you didn't expect, and then of course you get revenue that, from the insurance because of it. So there was a few events that happened. Basically those all happened prior, so those are in the notes. Let me go back to those. So those are basically our light pole repair that was hit by an unknown citizen, police vehicle windshield replacement, trailer and leaf blower. And then the sale of the land that we're talking about, we had the 225, that was the sale of property at James and Washington. So I haven't actually, those were notes Ellen had made previously. So
Yeah,
these are actually.
and the sale of the land wasn't
prior.
budgeted for because we did not anticipate that. What you also notice, Renee, is to your point that we've only collected 77.5% of our revenues. $1 million of that and change was appointed from reserves, right? That's your last line item. So we haven't appointed anything from reserves, so it's not gonna bring that number up. So the numbers that we like to see are that your real estate, your real property taxes, right? We've already collected 100% of our budgeted. Our licenses, permit, and fees, we already collected over 100% of our budgeted. Other local taxes, I'd have to go back and look through that, but that's a little shy, and that's a little shy of where we want to be, but everything else seems to be falling in line. So the other local taxes are, where we're shy at is sales tax, and sales tax hasn't been given to us by the state yet.
Right.
So those are numbers that tend to come in as we move forward. So our total local tax revenue is 91.4%, means we're right on pace for where we ought to be for the end of the year.
So,
I think that color that Ellen provided, and left for you as far as those notes go, that's the kind of thing that I know at least I like to hear. If
mhm.
there's variances that should be explained, so I appreciate that.
Thank you. And, we'll get caught up on the notes. We need to figure out where to get the information.
Yeah,
for
it takes
notes.
time, right, for sure. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for your April and May financial statements or your May cash balances? Hearing none, we're going to move forward with our budget, 23-24 budget. Mr. Stallings is going to run this. We've had quite a bit of discussion about this, and I hope that you all received an email from me earlier this month. One of the things I heard from both Jeff and Renee last month is that we want a flat, revenue neutral tax basis, which is 14 cents, and we wanted all of our cake to go along with it as well, which is never a real simple, easy thing to do. But I did send you a proposal that would do that. Michael has incorporated that into the budget. And that's probably what I'm going to advocate for today. I'm going to give Michael an opportunity to speak to. Michael is our town manager, and his job is to advise us. And this year, he's run the budget kind of by himself with the departure of Ellen. And so it's not a simple task to do, but Michael's pretty sure that next year we need a tax increase, even if the budget that I have proposed to you guys does two things. I got it here on my phone, so I'm not just goofing off. So in the public's building repairs and maintenance, we have $413,344 in capital improvements. I am recommending that we fund this one time because they're one-time capital improvements. There are windows for the treasurer's office. There's wallpaper for the Smithfield Center. When I say wallpaper, this is the wallpaper. This isn't like, hey, let's do a nice floral pattern in here. This has gotten abused over the years and needs to be replaced. And then a couple of other things in that. Some $50,000 to the schoolhouse museum, carpet in the PD, windows in town hall, and then the wallpaper here. All right. And these are things that need to happen, and they're part of our capital improvement program. And the reason that, there's a point when Renee had argued, well, why don't we fund part of police department salaries with ARPA money? Because we can do that. But I didn't feel, this is my personal, I didn't feel that funding that with ARPA money made sense, because that's an expense you absolutely will have next year. I'm guessing that if we, have to go in here and replace this wallpaper in the Smithfield Center that's been here for 20 years, we're not going to have to do that again next year. The windows in Town Hall have been there forever. So it's part of capital improvements. And I felt that our ARPA money was being spent in ways to help offset our CIP here in the town already. So I thought that would be an appropriate use of it. To get to the 14 cents, we have to come down $500,000. We also have had quite a bit of discussion about implementing the strategic plan of the town council, and we budgeted $125,000 for that. And I reduced that budget. I reduced that to $38,344. Those two combined give us $500,000. And my thought process on that is that, you know, some of the discussion we've had, we probably don't need the full 125 to implement that in this year. And so to Michael's note, you know, I understand his job is to advise us and look out beyond this year. I understand that it's likely we're going to need a tax increase in the future. I also say likely doesn't mean we will, okay? So we could run into something the next year. We could see 3 restaurants open and the food tax, the meals tax we collect greatly increases. We could see some development come online, although that's not likely in the next 12 months. But we have things in place that are helping our town grow, that are going to produce revenue for the town. So my argument remains, if we don't have to do a tax increase this year, but we think we might need to next year, let's not do it on a, we think we might need to next year. Let's base it on what we need on this budget. And I think with a 14 cents neutral tax basis here, I think we can make it another year. You know, we're not funding anything out of reserves. It gives us a budgeted things. And you know, we always, and you look at the budget we just discussed, there's $1 million in last year's budget that was appropriated from reserves that we as a council passed. All right, so we were saying we're going to take $1 million out of our savings, our reserves, to balance our budget. And we did that last year. And we didn't think we needed it, and as it turns out, we didn't. This year, we're funding $500,000, half the amount, and doing it through the use of some of our ARPA funds. And we're not going to see ARPA funds again, guys. I mean, we had $8 million. It was given to us. We have to spend it appropriately, but we're not going to see that. God, Lord, I hope we don't see it again. I hope there's not a reason for us to see it again. But it's money for capital improvement that, you know, windows and you know, bricks and mortar type stuff are good for our community and are going to be there for a long time. And I think it's okay to appropriate some of that money to those things when we can. We have money that hasn't been spent and doesn't take away from any of our other pledges of the money. So I think we're safe to do that. But I am going to let Michael speak now and give his side of the story, because he's got some different ideas about how to do this and see where we come up. So, Michael, it's yours.
First off, what I'll tell you is what you have in your packages. The budget and documents at the beginning of it are the 17 cents that was advertised and as that budget was advertised. I did include in the back the resolution page that would have to be changed, as well as the revenue side that would have to be changed to make 14 cents work. So that's in there. I've also got it prepared for 15 cents, and I believe 16 cents is in here too. So in this document, as we mentioned, it does not, the budget that's here does not do the ARPA money, does not pull from reserves, but we did reduce the overtime number in police department, so it's flat and doesn't go up. We reduced the strategic planning initiatives, so those were done regardless. It's just a matter of whether council wants to reduce the tax rate further or keep it at 17 cents. And Mr. Pack, you know, expressed my concerns is going forward years, everything we do is getting more expensive, and we're going to have additional revenues as we move forward. And so that's where my concern comes from. One other idea that came to me about 2 o'clock in the morning last night is if we were to leave the rate at 17 cents, council could give a credit or a rebate of those other 3 cents. You know, potentially you use that ARPA money, the reserves that we're pulling from, and do a rebate or something with it. And the benefit to that would be we start next year at 17 cents without having to do a tax increase. And if we can cut more, then, you know, we consider doing that. But that was just another option that came to me in the middle of the night. But you have the documents in here to do 14 cents if so choose. And we can talk about other rates. It did maintain the 6.2% salary increase for staff, so that is in there. It did maintain the 1 additional FTE in the engineering department, and it was a swap of a part-time FTE in the HR department and 1 in Parks and Rec, so that was a wash. So we increased 1 FTE. So if there's questions, I'll be glad to answer them. If not, then You've got the documents in front of you to be able to proceed in whichever way you see fit.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Michael, can you explain this 3-cent rebate and how that would actually work? When would it come out? Would it appear to the general public on their tax bills? Because if I'm a little confused, and I'm not the brightest guy in this room by far, but if I'm a little confused, I want the public.
It's completely okay. First off, the beautiful thing is that would be in the June of next year timeframe. And that was something, when I came up with this idea, I looked at Jay and Laura a little while ago and said, this is my idea. You guys are gonna have to figure out how it works. You know, because I've seen other localities do things like this, and whether it's on your bill, you actually see a reduction in your tax bill, whether, you know, there's a check. I'm not 100% sure on that. We would have time to figure that out, but it's just an idea that came up, and I haven't had time to work all the way through it, but I've seen other localities do it in the past, but, you know, again, it would just be an idea.
What I don't understand, Michael, is why we would charge a 17-cent rate to turn around and give 3 cents back. The easiest path to that, to me, means charge 14 cents.
And I agree
So-
for this year, 100%. I'm looking past this year. I'm more concerned about where we are when we start next year. And my fear right now is we'll start next year in a hole.
So to that point, couldn't we say that we start next year saying we're going to have to increase taxes to 17 cents or whatever the number may be and deal with that next year?
You by all means could. I mean, that's a possibility, and it's just whether it's easier to maintain more than 14 cents this year, or whether it's easier to do an increase next year. That's ultimately a political question for the 7 of you. I just know next year, my fear is we're going to start in a hole, and we're going to be looking for additional revenue next year to make up for the increase in cost of services and everything that we've got going on.
You ready for comment? You wanna go first?
Doesn't matter.
Sure, Fowler.
I appreciate, I want to thank you and Renee for going the extra mile and sending that email out to us. However, I'm more inclined to agree with the proposal that Michael has presented to us. Now, I don't know how the 3-cent rebate would work. You know, if the Treasurer's Department can kind of figure that out for us, at least it keeps the tax base at 17 cents. And that is a reduction from the 19 cents. And in the past, we've kind of followed suit what the county has done. They reduced their taxes, and there was a discussion with them too. Do we reduce it from the lower rate of 71 cents and reduce it to 66 cents, which is revenue neutral? They decided not to. And I agree with Michael from the standpoint of revenue neutral as opposed to reducing it from, not revenue neutral, but reducing it from 19 cents to 17 cents. I guess I have a concern about, we know we're gonna need that $500,000 based on the capital outlay that we have in the current budget. So instead of using that from operational funding, we're just gonna use it with ARPA funds.
Just remember, and this part that we always say is like, we're reducing our tax rate. Yes, we are. It's still a tax increase. Like 19-cent rate to 17-cent rate, you still pay more in taxes. And it is a tax increase, and that's what we always say. And I don't ever want that to fail that, oh, we're reducing taxes. We're not. We're increasing taxes. We're doing quite the opposite of that. Because we're going to draw more revenue, even though the rate's lower. We're reducing our rate.
Okay, so I guess ultimately our goal is to look to reduce taxes, not to just look at reducing the tax rate.
Well, our
The
goal,
reassessment is not gonna go away.
no, it's not.
And I agree with Michael, so we either look at reducing the tax rate this year and then turn around and increasing it again next year. You know, why not just reduce the rate this year, which means that it probably would be a more palatable rate to actually deal with on next year too, and not have to consider moving the tax rate again next year.
Well, every year we look at budget, you have to consider moving your tax rate. You have to. And the funny thing is like, we get really hung up on this, right? If you look at our budget, real estate tax is a big chunk of it.
Yes.
But it's not the biggest. Meals and occupancy tax is right there with real estate tax, okay? So if we were to hypothetically get into next year's budget, Smithfield says it's 6.25% meals tax. If we compare ourselves to other localities, we're kind of in the middle, okay? We're not as low as the county, because the county can't charge higher, but we're a lot less than Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach is 11%. I like to call meals taxes kind of other people's money, right? So that when visitors come to our town and they use our roads and our police officers and whatever else they may need, well, they throw a little bit in when they pay their meal at Smithfield Station, Smithfield Inn, Taste of Smithfield, wherever. So there's other revenue sources besides just putting it on real estate taxes. And until we get to next year, and we think we might next year. I mean, I think Michael's very realistic in that. He's looking at his budget, he's looking at what his staffing needs, and he thinks that. But he could be wrong. I mean, and we don't have to make that decision this year. We may have to make a very tough decision next year that 17 cents doesn't cut it, that we haven't everything come through like we thought it was going to. But I don't think we make that decision until we have the information. I don't think we make that decision on what we think might happen. If we can budget this year, make it work this year, and then next year we look at it. And it's an election year. So what? You know, I mean, it's easier for me to say, I'm not trying to get reelected. But I still wouldn't look at it any differently if I would. I think it's important that we make the best decision with the information that we have at hand. And the fact that we don't know what we will need next year doesn't seem to me to say that, we should increase taxes. The other thing I've said at this meeting is the tax increase is not that much. At 17 cents on a $500,000 home is $100 a home, okay?
Michael is saying $78 and some change.
Well, it's $100 extra.
It's $100 extra.
It is 350. We need to make that correct.
So,
Chairman, can I make?
yeah,
The number that you were just saying on a $500,000 house?
yes,
The model has always been a $350,000 house.
right. So
Just clarification.
the point is that even with a 17-cent increase, it's not a huge dollar per home. But if it's not needed, why do we do it? Right? I don't ever believe in taxing more because we think we're going to need it than we should. A government should be revenue neutral. Our expenses and our revenues should match equally. We're not here to make profit. And sometimes we do a little better and we put it in reserves, and that's good. And it's nice to have reserves. I mean, we can debate this for as long as we want, and we will. We have no time limit today. My point though is that if we can be if we don't need a tax increase this year, if we don't need it, if we aren't trying to, we're meeting all the things we asked to meet. We're getting we're getting the pay increases for our staff. We didn't cut any of the things that we've asked for, the additional staffing or anything like that, or cut any projects to get here, other than the implementation of our strategic plan. I'm like, okay, I think that's a worthy way to go about this, So we'll keep talking. Renee had some questions or comments.
Randy, first of all, I totally agree, obviously, with your approach. In looking at the most recent completed year, we transferred, Michael, it was over 900,000 to reserves. You had budgeted 500,000. We put 900,000 back into the coffers. And I think the difference between the town and the county is that the county has very, specific things, not that we're gonna have this discussion, but they have specific things they want to use the extra dollars to pay for in their rate. And I just don't see that here in this budget. I mean, yeah, there's some capital projects that we need to get done. I don't even know that we'd have to associate ARPA money to get them done. I really think that there's enough in there, enough meat on the bone to pay for those things. I think that, just like Randy, we agree in that if you don't have to raise the overall tax, I'm not talking about the rate, I'm talking about the overall money out of pocket, even if it's $78, then I don't think you should. We don't have a huge project that we're trying to get done that we have those extra dollars allocated to. We've already put lots of money back into the account, really every year without having to dip into reserves. and I think we can just be smarter about it. I think that I appreciate, Michael, what you did with the overtime. You guys know it's obviously my opinion that you don't budget for full staffing of FTEs and increase overtime. So I appreciate you taking the extra overtime, because Michael had actually increased the amount of overtime for the police force and budgeted for full FTEs. And I don't believe that you can have your cake and eat it too in that regard. I also asked Michael to take a look at business licenses and permits. And according to the email that he sent all of us earlier today, I don't know if you had a chance to read it, and it was today, but as it seems, we are, there's some room to modernize our permit and business license fee structure. So, I don't want to get out of this conversation without discussing that, because while we match Windsor, I suspect they haven't raised theirs either or looked at it, but we are about halfway behind Suffolk and halfway behind Isle of Wight County. Again, not that we have to do everything the county says, but I think, that's a way to find 350 or 135. I think you said if we raised 30%.
If we increased across the board 30%, which would still have us below Isle of Wight and Suffolk, it would generate about 135,000.
So I don't think that's unreasonable to expect for the year. I have a small business and I have a business license, and I appreciate, that perspective and wouldn't mind it there. I also, since I brought up the museum last time, there's been lots of comments, and I've gotten emails and stuff. And I think the museum is great too. Yes, I absolutely believe that we need more things to do during the week, especially on Mondays when everybody's trying to be closed. But I'm just asking that we, if the county gave it to us for 3 years and it's been 5, then we need to give it back. B, and if that's wrong, somebody correct me. B, I think we can look at efficiencies, Everybody in your own homes, you're looking for efficiency. With the price of eggs and eggflation and inflation in general, you're looking at cutting things. And so I think if most of the programming is on the weekend, then I don't know why we staff it full-time during the week. And that's a discussion we're not going to solve today, obviously. And I'm not threatening that. I'm saying talk about that next year, right, in the budget process. But I think it's something that needs to be addressed, because the town citizens don't need to bear the cost of that burden for a county museum. And again, I don't think it was you all's intent to keep that forever. I understand, because you said the deal was 3 years, and now it's been 5. So, I'll just say that one more time. Again, not saying that the museum's bad. The museum is great. Don't read into that. Not saying we need to close it. We don't. We just should be a little more efficient with what I think are our town people's dollars. And that includes making the rate 14 cents and keeping this revenue neutral. And that's my perspective. That's my stance. I don't know. I went line by line. There's lots of places you can find extra dollars. But I don't think that we're going to put ourselves or our town at risk if we make it 14 cents. Oh, finally, anytime you talk about rebate, and this staff over here who already works hard to do these, cash balances and financials and all the reports, that's just extra work, you guys. So you're talking about having to give, people money back. I know what a fiasco it has been that some of my neighbors in Cypress Creek have gotten erroneous bills from the new county trash provider. You should see all the comments and all of the angst that this has caused, because my neighbors are getting bills when they shouldn't. And Michael says we're working with them to fix all of that, and they went out erroneously. They don't even believe me. They think it's too good to be true. So then what happens? You do a rebate, I think this might be a scam. I'm not going to cash this $78 or whatever. It just causes confusion, and I don't think we have to do that. That's all for now.
Other thoughts?
The only other thing that I'd like to say is, instead of at the 11th hour, I think next year when we have the budget, we need to do a line-by-line item at the time that the budget process takes place.
Well, we've been working on it for 2 months.
We have not gone over the budget this year line-by-line item, and it's probably because of the absence of the treasurer. And Michael pretty much worked on it himself with other staff, and that's not how we've approached it before in the past.
It's true. It's true.
Are under a slight risk. New York City
How much money did we return, or were we, let's say, surplus in the police department this year? I thought I read it was a significant amount due to,
Well, you're short 3 full-time positions.
I know,
Right.
So,
I know, but
Well, let's take last year, for example, or 21-22, which is the last year we have an audit for. The budget number was $3,253,000 and some change, and we spent $2,840,000 and some change. So there's almost 400,000 there. Now I'd have to go back and look and see exactly what those things were, but we can do that.
well, I know probably the majority of them were personnel costs. I would think that's where it usually ends up. And I think we still aspire to become full-time.
and our budget will allow for us to be.
I'm sorry?
If we're able to hire them, our budget as
That-
written
oh,
will
that-
allow
that-
for it,
right.
regardless.
What we're talking about, I think, is an element of reasonable certainty. That's what we're trying to wrestle with as to, can we leave it at, or have it at 14 cents? Or, are we going to have to come back and then ask for more? And certainly, from a taxpayer's perspective, it's a double-edged sword. You want certainty. You want to know kind of what's coming down the path the best you possibly can. And as a government entity, I think we have an obligation to try to provide our taxpayers with as much reasonable certainty as we can. But on the other hand, talking out of both sides of the mouth, it also is our obligation to not assess funds or assess taxes on them that we do not need. So where's the break point? I think a lot of good points have been made. I'd certainly, and we've hired Michael to, who's got boots on the ground every day, that I expect to provide us with good information, good forecasting information. But then again, we hire Michael, and where the rubber meets the road, it's our decision. So where does that leave us? I guess if council is resolved to the fact that they have no problem with holding it at 14 cents this year and not going to 17 cents, which is what Michael asked, which again, I commented in the last meeting, that's $100 on a $500,000 home. That, I'll go back to the same comment, you spend $100 with a family of 4 out to dinner if you so decide to do that, which is, to your point, that's the meals tax and things like that we've got to be involved in. So where do we go from there? I firmly believe that it's a difficult scenario, but I would really, as long as everybody understands that you'll be the first to say that, yeah, we've got to come back, we've got to raise taxes or whatever. It's a difficult time, enough time right now based on the assessment we've got and what we've dealt with the county. Not throwing shade on the county at all. I mean, that's just the way it is, and that's just what happened. And to the county's credit, they did come back and reduce even further and did, I think, the best they can. Got a school to build and things like that. If it weren't for the fact that our reserves, I think that this is a credit to our financial department and to our management, that our reserves are in such good shape. And the county, or the town is, as somebody I think mentioned, comments of financially fine oiled machine. We have done well. I would firmly agree with Madam Vice Mayor on the 17 cent. But at this juncture, as long as we don't get the pitchforks and knives and things like that next year, when are you gonna be here with us next year when we maybe? Well, it looks pretty certain that you're.
She hopes not.
Unless someone has a lot of write-in votes,
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
No. But the truth is that we're left next year making that hard, tough decision. In all due respect to you, Madam Vice Mayor, that we need to know, and we're gonna have to know, and, I'll go with the 14 cent. I'll agree with that this year, as long, again, number one, I want those employees taken care of. I mentioned that before, and I will, if that 14 cent did not take care of that, I would not in any way, shape, or form support it, not at all. But since it will, and, we believe we can do it, I'll support the 14 cent this year, with the understanding that, you know, anybody that's here says, well, we told you we may have to come back. I don't want anybody to have memory lapses or anything this time next year that we didn't discuss it. So
Mr. Mayor, I will be here next year when the budget happens again.
I was not pointing the finger
It's
at you,
okay.
Councilman Pack, at all.
But that'll be my 12th budget. And prior to council, 16 or 18 years we went without raising taxes. 16 to 18 years.
Right.
I can't remember exactly. I think it was
Yeah.
16. And during my term, when Carter was mayor, we raised taxes one time. And we've been able to figure it out since. And I do believe we're going to be able to figure out these budgets. I think there's other sources in revenue that we will see that we've been building with all the things happening in this town that will keep our real estate taxes low. Because my point earlier was that real estate taxes are only a portion of our budget. And it's what we're spending more time talking about than anything else, because that's what directly affects.
It may not be the largest portion of our budget, but it's the biggest portion of how our citizens are
Correct.
affected.
Yes, ma'am, absolutely, 100%. It is, but my point in that is that there may be other ways that we can look to increase taxes on other items, such as meals and occupancy, that don't directly affect our citizens. Meals and occupancy, meals does, I mean, everybody in town likely eats out somewhere at some point. But there's other avenues too.
When you say during the previous mayor's term that you can recall taxes being increased one time.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we're just having this discussion today, and we are discussing reducing or increasing the tax rate, or reducing the tax rate to 14%. So if we reduce it to 17 cents, we still increase taxes. So my question to you is, during that previous term, was it a reduction in the rate or a reduction in taxes?
It was in the previous term, the previous time we adopted a reduced rate that still increased taxes.
And
That would be doing like 17 cents now.
And that's what you don't want to do now?
Correct. My point is not that I don't want to increase taxes. If there is a reason for us to increase taxes, if there was a need for us to increase taxes, I'd be supportive of it. I don't see that need.
And I tend to follow along it. To Randy's point, I did budgets for 13, 14 years for an entire agency, or at least I had to approve them. They were $22, $23 million a year. They had some more federal money. It was a lot of money. But the problem that we ran into during the lean times where we started to impact programs. And it got to the point where I said, I can't cut any more unless, we're down to the bone. We've gotten through the meat to the bone. And this budget, at least at this juncture, does not impact the programs and the quality of life that our citizens have. That's why I'm so, again, that's why we love Smithfield. We have such a good thing going on. If it was going to in any way disrupt what was good that we have as far as programs and things like that, I would be opposed to it. But based on the information that I've seen, I don't see where it negatively impacts our programs and the quality of life for the citizens of the town of Smithfield. The museum aspect of it, that's going to be something that has to have some dialogue as well. We really need to get with the county. We haven't had an intergovernmental meeting, by the way, since this new council came, or former council. We need to have one. We need to sit down and talk about why we haven't gotten a response on certain things, and what about this and what about that. Look at them across the table and say, this is where we stand, this is what we need. So I'm not going to get off on a diatribe on that or whatever, but that's got a lot to do with, the museum and things like that. But that's the reason I'm sticking with the 14 cent, because I do trust Mr. Pack. I have watched him on the other side of the dais, give predictions as far as meals taxes and things like that. And I've never, although he's in the business, I've never seen him to be wrong as far as his predictions are concerned there. I don't know how the other three
I've been wrong before.
I understand. Well,
Once or twice.
we're not getting into other things, sir, but anyway, no.
Ask my wife.
No, that's what I just hang loose. I'm good. But, another 3 restaurants or something, I don't know. There are some other possibilities as far as revenue is concerned, and I'm gonna hang our hat. But I also will ask this of council. If Michael comes back and says mid-year, look, we've got a problem, and, you know, we don't want to get to that point before we fix it. So if we can have that agreement, I think that's important as well. And I've said enough, and I will shut up. Thank y'all very much.
I think you're right, Mr. Mayor. I did find the number, Michael, for the most recently audited financials, actual 21-22. Net income for that year, $999,000. $999,199.51. So almost $1 million. And that's with 0 appropriated from reserves, and we've done it. We did it. So I'm sure that this can be done. I do want to make sure, I mean, sounds like we have agreement to go at 14 cents, but I do want to make sure that we talk about the increase in business license and permits, if you think that that's reasonable.
I presume we can have a discussion, but as far as, are you saying hitch that onto the wagon as far as the budget's concerned now, or because I don't think we can do that at this juncture.
The business license tax, there's so many categories. There are different rates for different businesses. That's a.
Yeah, and so what,
But my point is, counsel, is I don't think that's correct. So I think if we were gonna discuss that, that's for a little bit later time. We could discuss it, but just as long as everybody understands, that's not part and parcel of this budget.
Correct.
We're doing today.
But what we should do is instruct staff to bring back a recommendation on business licensing and the fees that are involved with that, so that we can incorporate that into the 24-25 budget if we so choose.
Yeah, we can do that.
It's a very broad statute. There's so many different categories that are charged different rates.
but you don't have to wait till the next budget to make the change.
No,
It would just be
no.
unbudgeted.
I just want to make sure that has not been advertised. That's the new idea, and it just doesn't get thrown into the mix.
They're
Just trying to
unrelated.
kind of keep things in.
Mr. Hall, we haven't heard from you, sir. Do you have any comments?
I do.
Please.
I agree with the.
And we speaking to you, Mike.
I agree with Madam Vice Mayor. I think we need to leave it at 17 cents. Chances of having an increase next year are most likely, but that'll make it a little more palatable at this point as opposed to next year. And that's where I feel like it should be, and that's going to be my position.
Okay. Mr. Brooks?
You know where I stand,
I thought I did, but I was going to give you an opportunity.
14 cents and 6.2%.
Yeah.
So it looks like we got 3 and 3 at some point, so we got.
No vote yet.
I know, I know. But hopefully, Mr. Smith will have an opportunity to review this meeting.
Yeah.
Well, hang tight. I need to go to the council now. What do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people. Just as a head, not getting into the vote, but from a procedural perspective, we operate under the rules of the House of Delegates, and if a motion is made and it's a tie vote, it fails. Correct?
Correct.
You don't have to keep voting until you come up with a budget.
Well, we don't do any voting today. But
We'll do it tonight at 6 o'clock.
oh, is it tonight at 6 o'clock? Oh, yeah. Well, the way I see it right now is 4-2, unless I missed something. I know where Renee stands, I know where Jeff stands, and I know where I stand. I believe the mayor said he stands with the 14 cents.
I'll divulge that at 6 o'clock. Just from a legal perspective.
Understood. So we'll wait until 6 o'clock, unless there's other further budget discussion. If we don't, I mean, we have some times.
I just have one
Yeah,
other
please.
observation. It's not really a budget question per se. but it falls in line what Renee said about the Isle of Wight County Museum. I too received an email and I responded to a citizen, but I just want for clarification, under no uncertain terms that I said that we need to do away with the museum. I do agree that we need to take a serious look at the expenses and if it's viable for us to continue with that entity. I did make the comment last month that we find it hard sometimes to make those tough decisions, and I stand by that statement. But I do want to clarify that I never said do away with the museum.
I never saw that, but
Yeah, I don't ever hear you saying that either.
Well, in the email that I received, that's what the person said, but I did respond
Well,
and clarify.
The hardest
that
part
to
about,
them.
the hardest part about that right there is if we were, is the personnel aspect of it. That's got a lot to do with, as far as I'm concerned
You
as
know,
well.
Mr. Mayor suggested that we get an intergovernmental
Oh, ma-
in
yeah,
a
and
very
that will-
short,
that will take
in a
care of
short.
that.
And that needs to be an item on the agenda for discussion, because this is
Yeah.
not the first time, we talk about it at
It's
budget
not
every
new.
year. We talk about it at budget every year, and then we get on doing other town business, and then we get back to budget, we're like, oh, man, here's that museum again, and that's pesky, and we should have fixed this 2 years ago, and we haven't. So let's make a concerted effort to, because it may be that the town council goes, we have to keep the museum open, and we're gonna have to contribute to do it so, and we can. And then we can just hush about the argument that, well, we were only supposed to have it for 3 years.
Yeah.
So let's have that discussion with the county and put that to bed once and for all.
There was a concern too, from the Lynn years, about the statement that Renee made about cutting expenses, and you just mentioned the schoolhouse museum. I did ask Michael if you had a conversation with him about the schoolhouse museum in general, because just recently, since their involvement with the new project, I've learned some things about that relationship with the town. And I'd like for Michael just to share with you how that came about and what the town's commitment is to the Schoolhouse Museum.
Yeah, my comment wasn't, I fully support the Schoolhouse Museum. I've actually personally donating coats to them next week and have given money to them. I commented that I didn't understand the town owned the building. I didn't know
Okay,
that.
and that's
That was
what
my
I to-
comment.
And that's what I told Mr.
Didn't-
Linier.
yeah.
Yeah, but the town does own that building.
Did not know that. That was my
I
comment.
didn't know that
Lin-
Wilmot
Liniers
served.
are my neighbors,
Oh,
and
okay.
I did not know that. That was
Okay.
my comment, yeah.
All right, any other discussion on budget and for the next hour and 40 minutes? Hearing none, we'll put the budget off till 6 o'clock. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
Excuse me,
Yes, sir.
Sometime back, we had the thing where if a council member wasn't here, they could call in and do stuff.
Yes.
I just got a text from Michael Smith that he's home now. And maybe somebody should call him and get some input from him.
Before we do that, I'll
Yeah.
defer to council.
There's a procedure for doing all that.
Okay, that's what I'm getting at.
That's,
And if this is not it, that's fine.
Where you're gonna be and what.
Okay.
But he,
plus, he's limiting his, you have limited bites of that apple. And, you say he's home now? He's gonna be at the 6 o'clock
You
meeting?
should try to be here by 6.
well, he's recovering from
At 4
the
minutes, at
procedures.
6 minutes after 4, he said, I'm home now.
Well,
If he'd like to weigh in at 6 o'clock,
I don't think he wants to burn his card at this meeting when he could participate in
Okay.
at the 6 o'clock meeting.
the council meeting.
I'll just,
Ms. Rowell, if you would like to let him know that, just let us know if he wants to phone in for the 6 o'clock budget hearing. There's,
well,
is that, how does that work?
You only do it twice a year.
Yeah, but how do you let us know? Is there a time limit with which you gotta let us know?
But you have to, well, we have to physically make it it has to be audible to everyone.
Okay. But we could put him on a cell phone and a speaker.
But the
Yes, Amy? Or Amy?
individual
Amy's doing this and she's looking at me like, hey!
well, and here, I'm just making a suggestion, that's all. And if it's feasible, fine. If it's not, that's a.
But budget's a big deal.
But, and Mike's presence is a big deal, and granted, he had this issue, And he's
Understood.
on that. So I just want to afford him the opportunity, if it's available to him, if it's within proper protocol.
Yeah, if it's,
Make it work at 6 as long as I have an opportunity between the 2 meetings.
yeah, if he wants to do that, we can find a way to make it work. I will share my microphone with him.
Okay.
So if you'll,
If I can excuse myself, I'll go out and call him.
yeah, go right ahead. Yeah, please.
Okay. Mr. Mayor?
Personally, I hate to feel that we're pressuring him to call in on the phone. I think Michael.
I'm gonna ask him if he
Mike
want,
knows that we are discussing the budget today, being that he's just being discharged from the hospital, that I think that if he's capable of doing it, that he would initiate it. I mean, I wouldn't want town council to call me and say, Valerie, do you feel good, do you feel up to calling in for the budget meeting tonight when I just came home from the hospital?
It's up to you guys. I don't have a feeling either way here. I'm happy for him to call in if he wishes to. If he doesn't want to,
Mr. Mayor? That's what he said.
I'll go with that. That's not even my decision.
Okay, here, this is, the rule from the chair is gonna be this.
Okay.
If this had been a scenario where all of a sudden he's calling in now for this meeting, I, as chair, I would overrule that, I would overrule that authorization. No, let me finish, I'm not finished. Since this is a continued meeting coming up at 6 o'clock that he was present for at the first meeting, and he's asking to be heard at the continued meeting, I think it's allowable if that's what he wants to do. So. Okay, very good. We're gonna discuss now, Mr. Hall, these, other items. If you want to have leave to do whatever you want to, you're free to.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Proceed, please, Mr. Pack.
It's been an interesting finance meeting so far. All right, invoices in excess of $20,000 which require council authorization. Lewis Construction of Virginia, work done on Talbot Drive, $47,641. All First LLC for a bypass pump at Bradford Muse Pump Station, $35,000, which we seem to do at least once a month. All First LLC to relocate the wastewater SCADA system to the Wilson Water Tower, $99,065. These items have been budgeted. These items are recommended for approval. Is there any discussion on these invoices tonight? Hearing none, we will send these to council for consideration at our next regularly scheduled town council meeting. There is nothing else on the agenda for the Finance Committee tonight. Anything to come before us? Seeing none, we'll see you guys at 6 o'clock. We are adjourned from Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Pack. The next is the Parks and Recreation Committee members, Councilwoman Roundtree, Vice Mayor Butler, and Councilman Brooks. Roundtree.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to call the Parks and Recreation Committee meeting to order, and we'll start with any public comments or announcements. Anybody wish to speak on Parks and Rec? Amy, as a part of this opening public comment, through your operational update, can you make sure and update the council on the status of Windsor Castle Park rentals? And you remember, I think there was a comment at the last council meeting that we were subsidizing. Remember, I emailed you and asked you for clarity on that. Can you just make sure everybody understands the value of the park and?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So both Smithfield Center and Windsor Castle Manor House events, they don't make, actually Smithfield Center doesn't make what it costs to operate, but Windsor Castle does. It's making an average of $70,000 to $90,000 a year. But we've had a tricky time because when we first opened the venue, it was right out of COVID, so.
But now we're 70 to 90,000 above expenses.
Yes.
At the Manor House for you.
Well, matching operating expenses, yes,
correct.
ma'am.
Any questions on that? Because there was a citizen's comment about that we were greatly subsidizing the Manor House and.
That it sits empty, that's
Yeah.
not accurate,
No,
no.
thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
You may have seen some activity over at Windsor Castle Park near the play area. We have done some renovating with the playscape area, and we've moved all the toddler items into the big play. So now it's all in one area. So if you have a parent, if you're a parent with children of multiple ages, now they can all play in the same area. And we moved the sandbox away from the downslope so it doesn't keep getting blown out with all the rainfall that we've had lately. Upcoming, we have a Play in the Park Day, which is a foundation event, and it was supposed to be this past Saturday, but of course all the wet weather, we didn't know what it would look like by Saturday. So we've rescheduled it to Saturday, July 29th. Currently, we are hiring an event manager for the event side of parks. We lost, Courtney moved on recently, so that she was our Smithfield Center person. And then Osley, short after, our Windsor Castle site manager, she's left to pursue her master's. So I'm looking to fill the event manager position, which will take care of both venues as far as booking and dealing with the clients. So if you know any good candidates, please send them my way. I have a couple in the applicant pool, but I'd like a big applicant pool so I could have my choice.
So you just hired one person?
Yes, ma'am.
One person,
Mhm. In July and August, we'll have major renovations going on here at the Smithfield Center, replacing all of the toilets in the restrooms. Again, this building is 24 years old, so we are seeing a lot of aging, and it's like stuff happens to decline right after the other item. We're replacing all the air wall coverings, so these provide sound dampening as well as function as room dividers. So we are recovering those.
Assuming your budget gets passed.
Yes.
I'm playing, Amy, I'm playing.
Yeah. And then we're changing the carpet tiles, hopefully in the hallway to the LVT plank, because the carpet's not holding up as well as we'd hoped. So that's it for operational updates. Does anybody have any
Right.
questions about anything going on in the parks?
No, thank you. Apologies, but who did you bring with you today?
This is Rebecca Kildoff. She is our foundation president. Did I say her last name correctly?
You did.
Okay.
Thanks.
Newly appointed this year.
I have one question
Oh, okay.
on operational updates.
Okay, thank you for coming.
Kayak launch, or kayak dispenser
Yes,
machine?
it's now been moved for delivery of this Sunday, July 2nd, on Fireworks Day. So hopefully they don't push us back anymore. They were waiting on parts, and of course, everybody knows how that goes lately.
They're
So
waiting on what?
On parts, the QR code locker system wasn't in when they wanted to deliver, so
So I'm guessing, judging by your comment, we haven't rented kayaks this season?
we have not.
Because we didn't hire summer help, and then
Right.
the
And we were
cage
supposed to
doesn't
get
work.
this in mid-May,
Huh.
and it keeps getting pushed back.
Yeah,
So
that's too
Have a
bad.
penalty clause on them?
I don't think it does.
Okay.
Any other
you.
questions for Amy on operations?
We did have the Pony Softball World Series this past weekend, and in spite of all the rain, Chris Hewitt worked hard to get the fields ready every time it would stop raining, and they pushed games that were supposed to start on Thursday night. So everything happened Saturday and Sunday, and they're gonna continue to try to play tonight and tomorrow, but it got canceled tonight because of the storms. That's what I was afraid of. But that's safety first, is more important. Good.
Amy, where did everybody end up staying? I mean, did you see an increase in traffic to the restaurants, or?
I don't
Okay.
know. I haven't heard from the vendors, and Judy had to leave to go to another meeting, so I'm not sure if we saw the additional traffic, or I know that the scope of the tournament greatly decreased because teams that were further out, like such as New Jersey and South Carolina, they started to pull out when they saw the weather forecast.
Right. So how many teams were in it, do you know?
I don't know that number, but I will have that all for you in my report.
Great, okay. All right, so number 3 on the agenda, I think you have Smithfield Center revised fee structure?
Yes. So in your agenda packet, you see our current fee structure and then the proposed fee structure. There's not a huge difference in pricing, but what I'd like to do is to push clients to rent the Celebration 2-day package. And I think this will make an easier time on the clients as well as the building and the staff. We're having a lot of churn For example, we've had weddings on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so that's 3 different groups, and it's really hard to recover the building in between groups. The behavior of clients has declined somewhat, and they're not leaving the building as they found it. And we're really struggling with it, and I think this 2-day package will help people to have more time to, get into the building, set their event up, and not be so rushed on either end, the start or the finish.
If I may, Amy, one of the things that I've found is that the higher you raise your structure fee, the better clientele you get, the better behaved clientele you get. I'll use hotel rooms, $99 hotel rooms, $69 hotel rooms. I generally don't want the client.
Right.
They don't leave the room the way it was found. There is nothing to say that you can't force this, because the turn and burn on your staff and the building and the walls we're paying for and the toilets, those are real numbers.
Absolutely.
And if that's the way that is best to operate the Smithfield Center, I'm with you. Every time you bring me a proposed fee structure, I'm like, you're a little light still.
I know.
You're a little light compared to the rest of the world.
I know.
And we're operating in the red here. So if that makes more sense, and again, as always, I'll leave this up to you, but I'll give you my thoughts on it. I don't have any problem supporting it. If you want to push people, don't push people. Make it. Say this is what you have to do. But you get the building. Does the full weekend rental, is that Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
No, it does not include Sunday. If they want to add Sunday, it'd be $6,800.
Okay.
And that way they could move their items out the next day instead of
Well,
everything being done
it takes a
Saturday night.
full day to set up for a wedding, a full day to have a wedding, and a full day to clean up for a wedding. And if you make that mandatory, your building gets a lot better, because to have a wedding in here on Saturday, clean up and turn around and have another one on Sunday, which I know you guys have done, is tough on your staff, and you get a lot of burnout on staff and a lot of burnout on building as well. So however you want to do it, you have my support, but I am not opposed to you being more stringent than you're currently being, and that I'll be.
The damages have been bizarre, such as these tables are built to go up and down and suffer all kinds of abuses, but now we're finding holes punched in them, and it's really bizarre damage, and we can't keep up. And if somebody really does a number on the building, what if we can't produce a clean, altogether venue the next day for the next client? That's not fair to them. So forcing this Friday, Saturday rental will help decrease that abuse a little bit, I think.
So Amy, I agree with moving this to council for consideration and vote. Any other comments? Thank you for the recommendation. I think it's a good plan.
Thank you.
Number 4, Windsor Castle Park Foundation campaign for capital project plan.
And I apologize to the audience that this isn't on the big screen, but I didn't have a chance to do that, but it is in your packets, and it is in the agenda, which is available online on our smithfieldva.gov website. So again, Rebecca, our Windsor Castle Foundation president, is here with us, and she's gonna lead the charge on raising money. So just to clarify, I think everybody knows how the foundation works. They're our fundraising arm for the park, but they can suggest stuff to go in the park, amenities and such, but town council needs to approve it and be on board with it. Otherwise, it won't happen. But whatever funds they raise go towards park projects. All right, we'll start with the play features that we're thinking. So we're thinking of there's your microphone. 3 of the play features are zip lines, swings, and then a barn-looking structure, which is like a large playhouse with a slide attached and what looks like hay bales to climb up and all kinds of fun features for them to play with and such. Any questions about the play features?
Would the zip line be staffed?
No. It's low enough to the ground where it doesn't require that.
Okay.
Well, the goal here is not to add to your budget discussion. We're actually going to bring the money to the table to help fund this, but to bring some other activities that will keep people here in Smithfield and draw people and families to the park.
Open on Mondays? Open on a Monday?
We're open 24.
You have one question.
Okay.
As far as the safety aspects are concerned, who oversees once this construction is being done, to ensure that the highest standards or the, you know, the acceptable standards are adhered to when the project goes up and running?
Our park staff does that, and we actually have certified playground,
Chris Hewitt's a certified
Right.
playground inspector.
right?
Okay,
Yeah.
good enough, thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
And then the next item is a picnic pavilion, and the idea for this is so it can be reserved. Our picnic benches, or picnic tables, I'm sorry, there's no way to reserve them, so they're first come, first served. It'd be nice to have an area that we could dedicate and rent out to families and groups to have a covered shelter for their gatherings.
I love these examples, thank you.
Thank you. And the area for this is what we call main parking, and that's near the dog park and between the playscape. That's the main parking area. So I was thinking right off of it is where this picnic pavilion would be.
Is that under shade tree? Is it under the trees or it's an open field?
It's kind of open. It's
Okay.
where the sun
I was trying
dial
to
feature
picture it.
currently is.
Oh, okay.
The next one is an outdoor education pavilion, and you see different examples of how that can be done. It can be very simple, but the idea behind this is it would give a place for our outdoor education to take place. A lot of schools bring school groups out there. The Master Naturalists have outdoor education programs. We have a tree walk currently taking place. We had bird walk tours, and so this would be a nice gathering point for them to give out information. We also have Walk with the Doc, so all this would serve well for an outdoor pavilion.
And the space we've allocated for that is where the current tot lot was. And that's why we've relocated the tot things over. So now we have the opportunity to have that space right off the parking lot and where school groups and people can come to right as they're walking into the park.
I'd just like to say, I know that the Girl Scout troop just had a bridging process, ceremony out there. And this would have been perfectly
Yeah.
way.
Absolutely.
For sure. It's kind of like what they do at Busch Gardens, right? With the little educational areas.
Yes.
Theater, I like it.
Parking lot expansion, again, this is the main parking area, which gets, I would say, a majority of our patrons park here and enter into the dog park or to the trail or to the playscape. And so this would give us around 80-some spaces where we currently have 20-some. Wow. And again, you see a lot of school groups, and this gives even bus parking and bus turnaround to make that easier accessible. And then the Longleaf Pine Initiative will also bring people in and bus tours and all that, so.
Kind of far to walk from that lot to the Longleaf Pine area, isn't it?
Well, the
Oh, we made it
entrance-
bigger, that's right.
Yeah, the entrance for the Longleaf Pine will be that main
Longleaf
area.
Pines extend now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
then,
I remember now.
item I've kind of avoided for a couple of years is permanent restrooms, because maintenance is a big concern and you want them to be clean. Our porta potties are the cleanest in the area, I assure you, I've been to other parks. But a permanent restroom facility would be nicer for parents to be able to take their children in as they're playing on the playscape. So there's a couple different options, and we took a tour of the Brock Center and saw their compostable toilets. I don't know if that's the right fit for a public park, because people may not understand how to use it and may throw wrong materials down it.
Like a match?
Uh-huh. Or, you know,
So I'm guessing that doesn't turn out well.
no. There's other type of green restrooms, and there's way to incorporate green qualities, but we just have to find a way to make sure that it's easy to maintain and smells clean and looks good. And it needs to be lockable, so it can be locked at night, so we don't have any overnight guests or anything going on that should not be taking place.
Question, ma'am? Is this
Mayor?
gonna, thank you. Is this gonna require any additional FTE, this,
Yes,
these
sir.
improvements? There-
Yes, sir. Because this is a big undertaking that would need daily maintenance.
But at this point, these are ideas, right? That the Windsor Castle Park Foundation is,
We're a couple years off, but absolutely,
Just budgeting.
yes.
all right.
And then the final item in the packet is an expansion of the walking trail. Everybody wants more trail system to run on. The 5Ks would love it. So this would do two things. It would make a way to move around the entire longleaf pine demonstration area that we've created, and then also make a fire break on the side closest to the woods. So when it's time to do the prescribed burn, you have the fire break that's needed.
Amy, everything that you presented, I have zero issue with. The only comments I would have, and they're not for now, but when you're ready to build a picnic pavilion or you're ready to build restrooms, I would have comment at that time on whatever design you bring forward.
Absolutely.
And I like bricks and mortar.
I wouldn't expect anything less, Councilman Pack.
You have a wonderful park. Let's keep it as such.
Absolutely.
So whenever you have your designs together, I'd be happy to assist and comment on that.
Amy, I'd like to concur with that. I'm excited, when I saw this, I was excited about it. And you know, I already asked about the restrooms.
You did.
Early on, so.
Yes.
And as far as the underbrush with the longleaf pines, I was kind of disappointed that the weather
I know.
didn't work for us.
Mm-hmm.
Because I couldn't envision how that worked. I had the opportunity to spend a day in the woods with Bobby Klontz.
Okay.
And so they had just had a burn the day before, and then he showed me some past burns that they had had, maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, so now I have a better appreciation for it.
Wonderful. It's a neat process, but it's not as dramatic as it sounds, but it does the trick too to preserve the pine trees.
Rebecca, you all have a daunting task
Yes.
before you.
We do. So I live across from the kayak launch, so I can see whether or not it actually gets installed. But we're pretty excited. We've begun to tap some of the local foundations. We're looking at grant money for things like the restrooms, because there are some places where we can find other things. And we're really tapping into some larger corporate foundations. And so, fingers crossed, we have a board meeting tomorrow night. After that, we have one of our first announcements, and then we'll have a series of PR announcements and things that go with that to bring other people to the town and use that as an opportunity to get some PR and bring more people to the park. So we're pretty excited.
Talk a little bit about the smaller campaigns.
The other piece of this is, so one is the corporates and the foundations are going to get a couple $100,000 to $500,000 donations. The other piece is we really want to make this more of a people's park, and so we've adopted some more technology with QR codes and things, and you'll start to see those show up at the park. The wishing well over by the Manor House, over by the dog park, down by the kayak launch, where people ask all the time, can we make a donation, can we do something? And so we're gonna take small donors throughout QR codes. And then we'll do a series of events like the Family Fun Day and other sorts of things on that through. You'll start to see a series of events from the foundation, primarily designed to bring more people to the park that aren't at $1,000 price points and those kinds of things, but looking for ways for anybody who comes to enjoy the park to give back and have an opportunity to make a small donation. And so we hope to build at least half of our money through those sorts of things as well.
Well, thank you, Rebecca, for bringing that renewed life, right, and sense of, I think, purpose and plan to the park. I think it's been much needed. It's been a couple of years since we've really had that, and it takes effort. And I know you're not compensated for the work, so it's, you know, a volunteer position, and that's not always easy. What I want to say is that these plans look great, and I think all of us will be willing to help you with those endeavors. So please do make sure that, I'm sure Amy will bring us dates and ways that we can be involved.
Absolutely.
Right? And ways that we can help you promote these items, like the QR code and the wishing well. I think all those are great ideas that if we're not taking advantage of, we should be. So I feel like you're right on target with all that.
Thank you all for your
Yeah.
support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The foundation meets every month, the fourth Tuesday of the month at 5:30 at the Manor House, just in case anyone is interested in sitting in on a meeting. They're quick, they're an hour. That's it.
Fourth Tuesday.
Yep, at the Manor House at 5:30.
Great. I'll consider trying to come. That would be fun.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any comments for Parks and Rec? All right, I'll adjourn that meeting. Thank you.
Next is Public Works. Members are Councilman Brooks, Councilman Smith, and Councilwoman Roundtree. Mr. Brooks.
Get over here, timed out. All right, I'm gonna start the start the meeting by asking for public comments, if there are any, regarding Public Works. Hearing none, I'll defer to Jack to see if we have any comments.
We are continuing to work on building repairs at Town Hall. We installed handrails at the new stage, and we are continuing repairs at the old schoolhouse. We are doing our best to keep up with grounds and the grass cutting, but with all the rain and the limited staff, we're a little behind on that. We have multiple drainage projects that are currently in the works and are currently within the budget. Across the department, we are almost fully staffed outside of the engineer position and one grounds maintenance position, so we're pretty happy about that. And lastly, we are going to schedule a tour for Mr. Brooks, the chair of our committee, but we're going to reach out to everyone. If anyone else would like to tour some of our facilities and see some of what we do, I'll send that to everyone.
Nice.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody have any?
One thing,
Council.
there's an agenda item on your 6 o'clock agenda that you don't know about, but it's there anyhow because it's a last minute item. It's new business, but it's old business. We've been trying for months now to get an easement from Brian's AME Church for, you know, we needed emergency access from the lakeside. Touchdown. We got everybody's signature.
Great.
But
Wow.
as of today, it's in my hand, so he stuck it on the agenda so we need to move along, and that's.
Got it noted on there, for sure. Yeah, thank you.
Good deal.
Jeff, I'm gonna add one thing. I reached out to Michael last week, and Jack, it was brought to my attention via a Facebook post that, the South Church Street sidewalks from roughly Royal Farms to McDonald's are pretty well overgrown. There are pictures of, and the residents on there had said, well, this is always falling on deaf ears. Like, well, let's see if we can fix that. The pictures shown were some growth on the sidewalks that probably shouldn't be there. Just want to make sure that we get on top of that. And you know, sometimes people that don't live in the historic district feel left out. I've heard that for 12 years, and I understand that. I understand that. We've paid a lot of attention to our historic district, and we keep it really nice. But we have a beautiful town, so if we can try and get that under control, you would make me look like a hero, and I would very much appreciate it. Not that I'm trying to look like a hero, because it really should be taken care of anyhow. But there are some concerns being brought forth when people talk about them, and they're right. You know, if they weren't right, it'd be different, but they are right in these situations. If we could try and address those, that would be very appreciated.
Mayor?
Yeah, please, to that point, Mr. Pack, I asked the town manager about this exact same item, vis-a-vis the same way that you got it as well. Those sidewalks, though, are kind of like the right-of-way coming in to the town, as I understand it. Those sidewalks are the responsibility, once again, of our state partner. Am I correct?
Yeah, and we talked about it, we talked about it today, we're gonna reach out to VDOT, and if they're not willing to come in and take care of it, I mean, we will.
Because and you've been here long enough, you know that entrance corridor into Smithfield is VDOT's responsibility, and if we didn't cut it, I mean, it would be on the same cutting rotation as some of the other bypass. So, you know, I just want everybody to know it doesn't fall on necessarily deaf ears. It may not be falling on the correct ears, and we're as good servants, we're gonna work to get it done. But I just want to make sure we have a clarification that we were not remiss in taking care of that responsibility. It's not, but we will undertake it. So, yeah, I read all the posts as well, and I just wanted to make sure that those folks understand that, you know, we got a lot to do and a lot to pay for as it is, and we're picking up some of the other weight once again of some other folks that maybe ought to be doing it. But nonetheless, it still looks like it does, and it doesn't reflect well on the town. I just want to make not putting anything on the town, but whether it be our responsibility or somebody else's, it's still our town. Absolutely. And it's still our entrance. 100%. And we got to make it look right. 100%. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Well put. Anybody have anything else?
Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
think I sent a note, Michael, I think I sent one to you just as a safety issue on the top of the bypass. Is that the same thing? VDOT owns that, or we do?
Right, it is, and we went out and looked, and we were gonna try to find a time to get with you, cause Wayne went out and looked, and we didn't see the sign that was being blocked that you were in reference to, so if we could schedule a time to come out.
Or I can take a picture and send it to you.
That would be great,
Okay.
cause we went out to look and didn't see it.
I'm curious, what sign are you referring to?
There's a highway sign at the top of the ramp. I'll have to just find it. We're talking about the bypass.
Yeah.
That I go by every day, multiple times. And there's just trees and overgrowth and bushes that in the summertime, it's nearly impossible to keep all of this stuff. It's like a jungle, right? It's impossible to keep it all cut, but when it hides something, then.
Right.
Very well. All right, any further comments? With that, will conclude the Public Works Committee meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Next item is the Public Buildings and Welfare. Members of Vice Mayor Butler, Mr. Hall, and Mr. Pack. Vice Mayor?
I'd like to open up the meeting. We don't have any things added from the agenda, except we do have public comments. Are there anybody here that would like to speak with public comments under this category? Seeing none, then are there any other comments? I do have one question, Michael, and I don't really know what committee it would come under. You sent us an email in reference to Summit Design and the flood victims
Springs,
on
yes,
Great
ma'am.
Spring Road.
Yes, ma'am.
My question is Summit Design meeting with them individually, or are they having a collective meeting? And will you be in attendance?
So far, they have been meeting individually with property owners.
Okay.
What they're trying to do now is get the participation agreements signed, either participation or you don't want to participate. And that will then kick us off with being able to get appraisers and all of that work going. So they reached out to everybody and had received contact back from 2 at that point in time. And so I have a standing meeting with them every month to get updates on the project.
With Summit Design?
Yes, ma'am.
My question is, if a homeowner decides to opt out of this, how is Summit Design, what are they telling them?
They are, basically, if they opt out, then they won't be included in the deal to be able to buy the house, relocate them. Basically, they're kind of on their own. This is the town's effort to help those individuals, and if they have reoccurring flooding in the future, it's on them. I mean, we're not going to start another project to do it again.
Well, and that's why I asked the question if we were in the meetings with Summit Design and them.
I have
Because
not been
if they
to this
opt
point.
out, they need to hear that from us.
Yes, and that was
Okay.
conveyed to Summit, and they said that they are indicating that. We are still
Okay.
moving forward on the emergency exit and those sorts of things to help the community, but this is the one and done for those homes along the road.
Question, Bill, do we need to get them to sign a document if they opt out?
They will.
They will sign it, okay.
Summit will have them either sign a participatory agreement or
Okay.
declination
Okay.
agreement. So they will have to sign a document either to join or to not join.
Okay.
And I would
Renee?
ask, Ms. Butler, I would ask, is it possible to mandate that something about this be put in any real estate documents? So in other words, as it changes hands, is there a way to pass down this knowledge so it's not forgotten?
It won't change to a private individual.
We can't impose obligations on other people's property.
It's not an obligation. They've said no. I'm just saying, as it gets sold.
There's virtually nothing, if we acquire the property, we can put in place, you as the new owner can put in place a restriction that prohibits forever the construction of real estate, anything on that property, okay? And that pretty much ends that. But with respect to somebody who chooses to live there, even given all that's transpired and they refuse to cooperate, there's nothing we can do.
So there's not even like a note you can put on the plat or, it's just even something at the county to file so that someone who's looking at it new is aware? Because I remember when they would come and speak, those residents.
Then they would say that's called slander of title. You as a government there's nothing illegal about living in that house.
But if we own the property.
You know the property, that's a different story.
Oh, I will tell you, Renee, I met one of the newest homeowners. They're not the newest now, with the last really bad flooding, and I really held her realtor responsible. They had no idea that that had happened until after they had purchased that house. But, you know, I know that this is I don't want to say last, because anything is possible, but this is a last effort to try and assist these persons. You know, I just want to make sure that they understand what their options are, and that if they choose not to participate, then what it could mean for them. I just want to make sure that there are no questions about that. You know, I just had a conversation with Tammy not long ago. There's another lot that's cleared down in that area after the fact. But Tammy said she was going to reassure me that they were not going to recommend that this exception be approved.
What does that mean? Somebody's trying to build more down there?
Somebody else
Yes.
needs a variance. They want to build a house behind Miss Rick's.
And so we're gonna say no.
Well, we can't say no, but what they want is a variance for a lot yard requirement, and we can recommend to the Board of Zoning Appeals that that variance not be approved. But we can't tell them no if they meet all their requirements to build a house there.
So we're
I'm
gonna,
really concerned, especially with all this raining that we have now, that if the storm is as bad as it is tonight, based on what he's already excavated, that it's gonna create more flooding.
are we still paying for, storage for anybody? No? Okay.
We only had one homeowner take us up on that, and that ended in January
Yeah.
Okay.
of last year.
But just remember, at any turn, the town of Smithfield has told these property owners, this is a really bad idea, don't do this, and they did it anyhow.
Well, then somehow they have amnesia and forget when they're trying to
Well,
sell.
they're different, the properties have changed hands now.
Right.
But the initial builders, they were forewarned that this was, although it's not in a flood zone, we said, this is a really bad idea, you shouldn't do this. And so, the implication that the town has been complicit in something, that we were negligent in any way, that is not true.
Well, personally, I never said the town was
No, I'm not
complicit,
saying- no,
but
I'm
what,
not- you
but
don't-
we're,
I'm talking to you.
but we're in a position now
To help
that
them.
we can assist them.
Correct.
So, yeah, I feel good about that, but I have talked with a couple of people down there, and I know at least one of them is not so sure about whether or not they're moving.
So I guess it doesn't bother them so bad that they get flooded, so that's their decision.
Well, I did explain to them that if they choose not to, that if their property should flood again in the future, that they would be solely responsible for it. So,
They may want to seek legal counsel to tell them exactly that, so that they really,
I hope it's not the family with those kids that they said we're giving PTSD to and everything. I really hope it's not them.
no, it's not them,
Okay.
no.
oh, let's not get into.
Tammy, Jeff said you wanted to say something?
Oh, no, I was just gonna comment on Whale Street if you had any questions.
Okay.
Oh, no, I don't have any questions, I just don't want to see it done.
What was the comment? Webb Street? What?
Quail.
Well,
Oh, Quail.
is there any more discussions? If not, public buildings and welfare, is closed.
Thank you, Madam Vice Mayor. Are there any other matters to be brought before the committee meetings for today? There being none, the committee meeting is adjourned. The continued meeting from, I believe, June 6th, will resume